Good morning. How do you start your day? What are you facing today? Well, let's talk about David for just a minute when he was facing Goliath. Verse 45 says, And David said to the Philistine, You come to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a javelin. Those were the most powerful weapons of the day of the enemy. He said, But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands. Now I want you to think about this for just a minute. When you're facing what's in front of you today and your feet hit the floor, what would be the wisest thing you could do? I'm facing today in the name of Jehovah God. That is the name of eternity. I am that I am. He's always been there, always will be. He's not not dependent in his existence upon anybody or anything. He's self-contained, meaning he's self-sufficient. He doesn't need anything. And he says, I come to you in his name. I come to you in the name of all power. But it was a personal thing with David. It was a name that meant something to him. How many times on those hills, out there in that Judean landscape, when he would listen to that bat in the background and he would look up at the stars and he would strum on his harp, the Lord is my shepherd. He was a shepherd, but he needed a shepherd. I shall not want. All those songs that he penned, the closeness that he maintained with God, were preparation for the day he'd stand in front of Goliath, and a whole lot more to follow. Let me ask you something. What is your relationship with God like first? Because that relationship with him is a precious thing. Time is fleeting. Seconds are ticking. God is giving you the opportunity today to know him. And he wants to reveal himself in circumstances. He tells you in the word who he is. And as you read and you meditate on that word, he reveals himself through the word, but also shows you in the circumstances of life his faithfulness. David knew God's past faithfulness. Remember what he said to Saul? He put on all the armor and he said, I don't need this. I've not tested these. He said, let me tell you something. A lion came, a bear came. I took both of them out in the power of God. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of those. I've already learned God's past faithfulness, and I can apply it to my present situation. That's why you need to keep a diary. And if you write in that diary, today God was faithful here. He took care of me here. And then you read back later on, a couple of weeks ahead, you say, God was faithful there. I've got this bigger thing today, but what means he's going to be unfaithful today when he was faithful back then? No, he will be. Also, God wants to vindicate his name in you. He goes on to tell him, remember what he did? He had a sling. He picked up 5 stones. He says, this day, he was so specific. I will give the carcasses of the camp of the Philistines to the birds of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. He wanted to vindicate the name of God. And he goes on to say, he said, you come to me with the sword and spear. And then, it's what he's already said, but then he said, then all this assembly shall know the Lord does not save with sword and spear, not the weapons of the enemy, for the battle is the Lord's. Even with that sling, and even with those 5 stones, he knew it was still up to God to guide that stone right to the place where there was no armor in Goliath. Even though he had thrown that stone many times in that sling, he knew what God could do. You see, it was all preparation. Weapons he'd used in the past, time with God in the past that prepared him for today. What I want to say to you right now is this. Face the day with the fact that God wants to vindicate His glory, His honor, His faithfulness through you, showing you and demonstrating to the world who He is. God bless you. Have a great day.